All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga and to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. A brief summary of all the chapters. Chapter 1 starts with an invocation verse where the Satyam Param Dhimahi, the absolute truth bhakti, is meant to be meditated upon. In chapter 2, Sutta answers the questions that the sages posed to him at Naimisharanya. And in chapter 3, a list of all the avatars of Krishna are stated, and the Paribhasha Sutra appears here. Ete Chamsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all other incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. Then in chapter 4, appearance of Narad is there to Vyasa, and as he's lamenting. And chapter 5, Narad instructs Vyasadeva and inspires in his heart to emphasize on glorification of Krishna's Braj Leela, his Madhurya pastimes, very sweet pastimes. In chapter 7 appears the famous verse Atmaramascha Munayo Nirgrantha api urukrame kuruvanti ahaitukim bhaktim itham bhuta guno hari. It is a verse that Mahaprabhu explained many times. The Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, even liberated souls. Then Ashwatthama is punished in this chapter by Arjun, and in chapter 8 there are 3 topics that are covered: Kunti's prayers, Parikshit being saved, and Yudhishthir's grief after war. And Kunti glorifies Shri Krishna. And in chapter 9, Bhishma Dev passes away after offering prayers to Krishna and meditating on the form of Krishna's pastime as Arjuna's charioteer. In chapter 10 is we see separation mood in Aishwarya Bhav, and that's specially expressed by the woman as Krishna departs Hastinapur. Chapter 11 is the joyful meeting of Dwarkavasis with their beloved Sri Krishna. And verse 9 talks about the movements of Krishna, giving a grand version of the events and hints on Krishna returning to Braj. Then we have finished chapter 11. In chapter 12, we saw the birth of Parikshit Maharaj and the beautiful way that Krishna is loitering around in the womb and saves Parikshit. This is chapter 13. Narad explains the disappearance of Dhritarashtra. So the disappearance of Dhritarashtra is like the disappearance of our darkness, of our anarthas, if we absorb ourselves in the chapters of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Vidura, who was already a spiritually wise personality, attained bhakti due to association of Maitreya. In verse 2, Jataika Bhaktir Govinde Tebhyas Chopar Ramaha. Vidura ceased asking any more questions to Maitreya as Bhakti had appeared. This love for Krishna was already there in Vidura's heart. It just shone brighter with the flame of Maitreya's instructions. When Vidura returns to the court of Yudhishthira Maharaj with Tatvik wealth, seeing him, Yudhishthira and his brothers and the rest of the relatives of Pandu and the women and their sons all became awakened by witnessing a pure devotee. This is the awakening of our consciousness also, drinking the auspiciousness that flows from the pages of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. After being worshipped, Vidura was glorified with beautiful words, and an inquiry about his experiences was made by Yudhishthira. Verse 10, Bhavad Vidha Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhutaha Swayam Vibho Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani Swantaha Sthena Gadabhrita. Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj has explained this verse, and he said that Yudhishthira said, great Mahabhagavad Vaishnavas like you are personally holy tirthas, sacred places of pilgrimage, but you are a moving tirtha. You travel and visit the holy places to purify those places by your presence. On the excuse of taking bath in the many holy places, you purify them and bestow mercy upon the residents and villagers who live there. You are Swantahas Thena Gadaptra. Gadaptra generally means personality who carries the club. Narayan in this who is Narayan. In this, however, the confidential meaning of Gada is not club but flute. The person who always carries within his heart that very Shyama Sundar Sri Krishna who plays sweetly upon his flute is called a Mahat, or great soul. Then in this verse it is stated not for any other reason but to give benefit to others. Is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mahat or Mahabhagavat? This is a question that Srila Narayan Maharaj is asking. He is God himself. If those who are sadhus travel here and there to bestow benefit upon others, and they are so powerful that they can inspire others in Krishna's love, then what to speak of Mahaprabhu, who is the original supreme personality of Godhead? Then Vidura gradually described everything he had experienced, but he could not speak about Krishna and the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. This is spiritual culture. One does not want to spread inauspiciousness by mind, body, or speech. So Mahatma Vidura had the potency to cut the demonic tendencies. In verse 15, it states that it was not by accident that Yamaraj was cursed by Mandavya. It was all the doing of Krishna. Yamaraj, by the will of Krishna, received an opportunity to appear in this world and to speak on devotional service. Mahatma devotees like Vidura are never to be considered as Shudras because in spite of their birth, they maintain their transcendental position. In fact, all of the Pandavas are eternal associates of Krishna who have come here to manifest Aishwarya Bhav. In verses 18 to 28, Vidura chastises Dhritarashtra, who was spiritually blind. These words are extremely purifying. There is rawness, reality in what we see, and they are very relatable to our conditioned state. Words like leave immediately, fearful time is approaching. Leave for where? For Dhritarashtra, it is towards liberation. For us, it is towards the lotus feet of Ragatmik devotees, because we are also like Dhritarashtra, afflicted by the disease of time in material world. Words like in verse 21, Pitra Bhratar, Suhrat Putra Hataste, Vigatam Vayam, Atmachad, Jaraya, Grasataha Para Geham Upasase. Your father, brothers, friends, and sons have been killed. Youth has departed. The body is afflicted by old age. You are living in another person's house. We are also living in a body that is not really us. This is not our house, this body. The attachments of the body in the form of family and friends are also not ours. This is like a wake-up call of mercy. Verses 22 and 23 are also very powerful in showing us the mirror. Your teeth are broken, your digestion is weak, and your body is full of mucus. Still you are attached. Who will tell us these real things? Only those who are a medium of Krishna, Sri Guru. And Sri Guru will not mince his words. He will tell us as it is. Vidura compares Dhritarashtra, the one with physical power of 10,000 elephants, to a dog. As a dog, you take the food given by Bhima, he tells him. In verses 26 and 28, Vidura guides Dhritarashtra in the process of attachment to Krishna, forgetting the cause of his downfall, his attachment to his family. He is the best of men who gives up attachment to money and sons and develops discrimination by self-endeavor or inspiration of others and worships Krishna. Vidura instructs Dhritarashtra to go somewhere unknown where determination and mercy will come. These words develop devotion to liberation within Dhritarashtra, which help cut the ropes of affection, and he leaves the house. Another part of transcendental Aishwarya mood, dharmic ways projected in Gandhari's good qualities and following the hardships of her husband. In verse 31, Yudhishthir, who seems to have returned after performing death rites, offerings, and upon his return did not find Vidura, Dhritarashtra, and Gandhari. This indicates endings. Yudhishthira then laments upon learning from Sanjaya, the closest person to Dhritarashtra, who wasn't aware of himself of when he left, and so he felt cheated. These are relationships based on a common thread, Krishna. These teach us the dharmic way of conducting ourselves with others, and even in Kali Yuga, have their effects on our consciousness. This is the glory of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Then Narad Muni arrives, and seeing the lamentation of Yudhishthira, he speaks, and after being questioned by Yudhishthira, in verse 41, he talks about meeting and separation are dependent on Krishna as everything else. And he says that just as cows are bound by ropes, we are controlled by the ropes of Krishna. Affection to material bodies, relations are the source of lamentation and the root cause of ignorance. Important lessons for us to absorb too. We are bitten by the snake of time, karma, and material ingredients. We cannot protect ourselves from these unless we have the mercy of Sri Guru and Vaishnavas, who teach us by example that futile lamentation is a waste of energy. That energy which needs to be directed to the service of Sri Guru and Vaishnavas who are following the path of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like Vidura, Narad did not disclose the destruction of the Yadu family. He dispels Yudhishthira's lamentation and gives him the location of Dhritarashtra, a hermitage of sages on the south side of the Himalayas. In 4 verses is the description of Dhritarashtra being engaged in Ashtanga Yoga to please Krishna by all his activities. And because Dhritarashtra was an offender of the dear devotees of Krishna, he attained only liberation. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubraivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.